In our kōrero, we know from the creation of our universe, of Papatūānuku, of Ranginui, and how in the beginning they were held close and tight, and their tamariki didn't have the room to move and breathe. The intention was to bring light and life into that space. And within that was that whole separation, that whole movement, and that whole creation of our world as we know it. If we imagine a mother and a father and that tightness and that closeness and that warmth and that embrace, pain and despair that comes about from that separation, the absolute despair and tears that came from Ranginui as they fell down on Papatūānuku. And so those tears are certainly something that we've grown up with, and we know many, many kōrero that have been passed down around the times when some people may look up at the sky and think, oh, that's only rain. And for us, we know that's again that link, that whakapapa, those connections that come from our eternal father and mother, from Ranginui and Papatūānuku. The whole meaning of wai, of water, is so strong, so intrinsic, so special, because without that, nothing lives. So when we say where is water from, it comes from many places, but first and foremost, it comes from that whole whakapapa about one keeping the other sustained. And as that water flows across Papatūānuku into the moana, into the awa, and into the life forces and into the many species and creatures that inhabit our earth, it's that water that brings that well-being.
Kia ora, I'm Trevor James. I'm a Senior Resource Scientist for our Healthy Waterways. I've been at Tasman District Council for just over 20 years and just passionate about trying to improve Te Mana o Te Wai, the health of our waterways. I've got a favourite saying in Te Reo, ko te wai te ora, ngā mea katoa, that water is the life giver of all things. And it's no more true than for the aquatic organisms in this waterway, Pearl Creek, where these organisms are swimming in it, they're reproducing, they're feeding in this watery medium that flows from the mountains through the waterways. Here it comes underground, pops up as springs and into the estuary. There are quite a number of marsh birds in here, and we've just seen the te kotuku, which is pretty special. We have occasional visits from the matuku or bittern, we've got the matata, the fern birds, we've got crake, marsh crake and spotless crake as intermittent visitors. But hopefully, as time goes past, we have more and more of this vegetation, natural vegetations growing up. We'll attract more and more of these bird species that depend on these wetlands and the river environment. Can you see how green some of these stones are? It just shows you that there is elevated nutrients in this waterway. So that's the challenge for this catchment, to reduce the amount of nitrate that's used and leaches through into the groundwater. Yeah, there are many issues facing our waterways, water quality, as I mentioned, the nutrients, but also sediment is one of the big ones. We've got a few schools of inanga. The inanga have finished, or almost finished, spawning now. There will be a few eggs remaining, and then they will hatch on the big tides and then head out to sea, and then they'll be coming in about the end of August and September, and then they'll be moving up into our catchments. The giant cockapoo will be a little bit later, and then they might take quite a few months to get into the headwaters like the koaro do. I wanted to describe the concept of connectivity. The Kiutiki Tai, the mountains to the sea, that linear connectivity, and also the connectivity outwards from the water's edge out to the margins, both of which are really, really important. So first with the connectivity up and down the waterways, these are like highways to many species, particularly our native fish. And we put in a lot of major roadblocks, us humans, with culverts and dams and weirs and other structures, and these can be absolute stymieing roadblocks for these native fish. It's a major problem with probably in the order of 12 to 15,000 of these just in our district alone. It's so hard to keep up with this, and then every year more of these culverts are being put in into more and more streams across the district, so it's really hard to keep up with. However, I would like to acknowledge the landowners that have come on board with the Jobs for Nature project and allowed the kumanu contractors to come in and do their best to improve the fish passage through the system.
We're drilling into water. There's no chance of dust or anything. Glasses are actually more of a hazard because they cause glare.
I agree.
I agree too. Well, you could probably widen them out a bit. Yeah, that should be sweet.
Look at this.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of flow, so like one person needs to hold it.
So this has had an old remediation in the past.
Yeah, it's got two ropes on either, like plenty of rope on either side.
Yeah. So what we are doing is installing a ramp and some muscle rope that fish can cling onto and work their way up into the culvert. Once into the culvert, we're installing baffles. The baffles create resting pools and disturb the flow of water.
Can you lift this up? Put this one first. Because that's go down here, the pool's not too deep.
So one of the issues here as well is, you know, fish that come up, not so much in this stream because we're kind of at the confluence of two streams, but if you have one of these structures in the middle of a stream, fish will make their way up and then they kind of get stuck there, and then we'll have an opportunistic eel like this fella, just sitting around picking them off. So it's basically like a smorgasbord that comes to him. There has been a number of kind of before and after studies done. There's a report coming out pretty soon that examines a number of these surveys. So essentially what they would do is put traps at the bottom of the culvert, see what's coming up and trying to make its way into the culvert. They'll put a trap at the top and see if anything is actually making it through. Then we would put in the remediation and repeat the process, see what makes it through the culvert.
Sweet. Yeah, we just finished the monitoring survey for the culvert that was just remediated. It's private land. Cool. I'll put that one in. Got the crossing ID. And it's just a quick... How many baffles did we use, Rianne?
We used 4 baffles.
Perfect. And the length of the rope?
And 6 meters altogether.
Rope of the culvert.
We're kind of at the upper limits of where we would try and make this kind of install because the flows are quite high. When these flows drop, fish will use this ramp and the rope to get into the culvert and make their way through.
There are some culverts that are too small, and so they've done their best in those circumstances, but in many cases we do have to design these culverts big enough to allow that water, the flood flow water, to come through more gently and not cause erosion at the downstream end. Many of these new structures become eroded really quickly and then become fish passage barriers as well. So we're adding to this potential problem.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Tom Cross. I'm the Director of Fish and Wildlife Services. Fish and Wildlife Services started here in the top of the South in 2004, and we've been engaged with the regional councils quite extensively, with working in a lot of urban stream work, as well as working with their state of environment programs. Today we're here looking at a weir removal and replacement, and a lot of this is about fish migration and fish passage. Part of this activity relates back to when this weir would have been initially installed, when there would have been little thought to the needs of our native fish, of which most of them need to have access to the fresh water and to the sea. This particular structure here in the Mutri, it creates a partial fish blockage. Only some species are able to climb over this weir and get further upstream. So it's been determined that the best remedy is to remove this and replace it with some structures that will accommodate fish passage for all species to get from the ocean to the headlands. When we're dealing with the capture, holding and transfer of native fish, we can employ a number of methods. We prefer to use non-invasive techniques, and one of the best ways to achieve that goal is to actually divert the flow around the area that we're working in. As a result, we dry the bed, and we are able to hand net all the fish. So we're not using electricity, for example, which has its uses in some circumstance, but today we are primarily using netting activities, hand nets, stop nets, whitebait nets. We have to adapt to the conditions that we're coming across today. Today we're dealing with well over 1,000 fish that we need to recover and move downstream. Today we're finding that most of the species are one of the 5 galaxid species that come in with the whitebait run. These are inanga. Locally, they appear to make up about 97–98% of all the whitebait that come into the run. These fish are not particularly great climbers, and we don't really expect to find many above the weir where we're standing right now. However, we have already caught about 1,000 inanga below in the pool. That's about as far as they could get. They collect it. We're a little surprised that they haven't made their way downstream yet, because they like to spawn where the salt water and the fresh water meet in that tidal wedge. And so we're actually giving them a hand today and hurrying them down to their spawning area.
Down below there's a gravel trap that needs to be cleaned out. When they came to clean it out, they discovered a number of whitebait or galaxids in the gravel trap. So before they were to go and remove the gravel, we went down and removed the fish and brought them to safety, which was essentially upstream. When we came upstream, we discovered that there's a thriving community of banded kokopo in one of these pools.
ranging from juveniles to quite large adults. And that was that was nearly a year ago, so they're still here. Looks like they've been here for some time. Yeah, and that's where those fish would have been trying to get to, that were down below. I had a walk up yesterday. Haven't seen any more in any of the pools further up, and I haven't seen any in the pools further down. So my guess is that any of the guys that have come up have kind of stopped in this one pool. Be an interesting little study after the next run next spring. See if any kind of stick around or any have moved up through into the other pools.
Black Valley is a wetland that is, I guess, northeast of St Arnaud. It's open, carex and sedge dominated wetland. It would have in the past had a lot more trees through it, kakatea, bog pine, mountain cedar, that type of thing. Lots of manuka and kanuka around the edges, transitioning into beech forest. Certainly it's very open at the moment and has a lot of exotic grasses in the drier areas. Since about the late 1800s, there were attempts to farm it and to drain it. So there's quite a few drains, about 8 kilometres of drains in the wetland. And the last lot of work was done in the 1980s, was subsidised for the purpose of creating more productive farmland. And that was a time where we didn't really understand the impact of removing wetlands. People thought that well, the best science, the best practice of the day was to turn those into productive farmland, and we just didn't realise the consequences of that. There was some work done by Doc and John Priest, who's a wetland ecologist, and it identified that restoring the water table or trying to re-wet the wetland was one of the most important things for its restoration, for its ecology. So the plan was to continue the work that Doc had started. They did a lot of drain plugging, so rather than fill the drain back in, we just put plugs in because it's quicker and less impact. And we started talking to iwi about how we could do it, and the feedback was very much that low impact is really important. And so we came up with the idea of using the helicopter to fly bags of soil in kind of a monsoon bucket type scenario where you'd pick up the soil and fly it and cut the bags open and drop it into the drains to form plugs. And that way we wouldn't have to take a digger out into the wetland and potentially get it stuck. The project was started initially as a partnership with iwi, and different iwi have different capacity to support the mahi in different areas.
Tēnā rā koutou nau mai hara mai I tēnei ata, te āhuatanga o tēnei kaupapa, te whakahirihira, te whetai ki a koutou katoa, hara mai nei I tēnei āhuatanga.
For us, that was just a great opportunity to work with iwi to try and support some of their cultural aspirations.
So it's a privilege for me to be standing here with the new science of the new, and I guess for us from the past. And yes, I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen here.
Kia ora. My name is Stuart Kelly, born and bred in Motueka. Nice to be here. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
We thought that instead of using these plastic bags to fly soil into the wetland, what about if we could do something with harakiki? And the idea was born to use the harakiki baskets to try and reduce the amount of plastic we use, but also if we can use the harakiki in an engineering sense where you use geotextile bags or geotextile fabric, perhaps we could use harakiki and reduce the amount of soil that we need to fly with the helicopter. And so now was able to, I guess, take the ball and run with it with the kairaranga and set up the wānanga that happened at Rotoiti.
Yeah, so this wānanga was just about getting our Te Tauihu weavers together. So it was awesome to see the support of our whānau and especially our weavers in this space. A couple of the options that whānau came up with was waikawa baskets, which this one in front of me is sort of a bigger version of. We've also got a sort of kete with a whiri style basket woven quite high. The whāriki mat in terms of what might be able to hold and carry the soil we need. I'm definitely quietly confident that one of the options will work. It's about innovation. One of the things I was very conscious of when we were engaging with iwi on this is that our weavers needed to be at the forefront because they are the ones that have the mātauranga and will be able to come up with the solutions.
The benefits are huge, just the mental health, the physicalness. You learn so much, and like, you know, with all those weavers yesterday, we had such laughs. We actually are very creative, and you know, Atawhai, with her knowledge of civil, you know, just being able to work out
what other people
being able to work out the cubic metre,
bring to the table,
your weight, what a basket will hold.
So this was actually started yesterday, and it took about 4 to 5 hours, with the help of the others around us as well. So I started it, and some ladies then came in behind and finished doing the finishing touches on the edges.
So the Māori stone was a concept that came out of the kairaranga wānanga. The weavers also encouraged other artists, and I believe Natalie, who we've worked with through other parts of the project, came along, and she had the idea of bringing a touchstone, a Māori stone, to the site to contribute to that cultural understanding of those that are working on it, as well as their cultural safety.
I have hunted up in the Red Hills, which is near to the whenua that we're hoping to restore. So I think it's relevant to use a stone from there that I've found that is still within its environment, but placed somewhere where it's needed right now. And I've never been a part of a project where I've actually created a touchstone to be in something like this. It's nice to be a part of putting a Māori stone that I've, sanded back and polished up to go into this whenua. Like it's a nice feeling that something I love is going into the environment.
I think it was a really nice touch to be able to start the project or start the work on the ground with the process of laying that Māori stone.
Tēnā rā koutou nau mai hara mai I tēnei ata, te āhuatanga o tēnei kaupapa, whakahirihira, te whetai ki a koutou katoa, hara mai nei I tēnei āhuatanga. The words that I've just said, it's about recognising caring thoughts. It's about sharing those caring thoughts and kahuri ko hoki mai, which goes around and comes back.
So the helicopter was coming from Murchison, and it's about half an hour or so's flight. And when we knew the helicopter was going that way, we reached out to the kaumātua and said, would you like the opportunity to get on the helicopter, because it's going that way anyway. And it didn't take too much convincing. We couldn't ask for a better team, and the crew that we had on the ground was ideal. There are some learnings that we'll get out of it. Some of them work better than others. The filling of the bags was really good, and the crew that we had on the ground was ideal. About there? Yeah. So this is a bit like weaving mātauranga with Lego masters, building a wall. We can support not only mātauranga but reconnection of whānau with cultural practices, and at the same time maybe reduce the amount of helicopter trips we have to do in future by using these bags. And given that they won't last forever, but the idea is it'll last long enough for the plants to establish and stabilise the plug.
So my involvement is a part of a group of kairaranga in Te Tauihu. One of the best ideas that we came up with was the Waikawa style. So we decided to use this style for this project as well because of the strength in the bottom of it, to hold all the amount of dirt. And the best thing about it is not having to prep the harakeke.
It's an important project because wetlands are really critical as sponges or kidneys, and they not only clean the water but they hold on to it. And we know that downstream in places like Westport there are flooding issues, and while this site alone isn't going to fix that, it's part of the wider change, the wider learning and understanding that we're going through as New Zealanders, that these places are actually really important and the way they function is really important. I'd really like to take the opportunity to thank ngā iwi o Te Tauihu, in particular the Kura iwi that have supported the project at the site. We really hope that this will be a template for other sites, for other councils, for other iwi that want to work together with ecologists and scientists and project managers to try and have a lower footprint, bigger output solution.
So the Nelson Lakes, Rotorua, and in particular Rotuiti, were important places for our ancestors. So they sort of worked as a centre that was connected by aratawhito, essentially the ancient pathways across the land. A lot of them led to this central point. The many species found within the lakes, the likes of the tuna, a kaura, a kākahi, freshwater mussels, sustain the lives of our ancestors. So when it comes to the current status of the environment, you know, talking about this place, the way that we analyse those things is essentially in the same way as our ancestors. And one of the big parts of that is looking at this thing that we call mauri. So mauri is essentially the unseen life force that exists within all things. And the mauri of one thing, it sort of has a ripple effect and it affects the mauri of another. So the mauri of the water in the lake affects the mauri of all of the things that rely upon that water, all the things that live within that water. And knowing what to look for, what should be there, what shouldn't be there, what things should look like, what things should smell like. That's a framework really that's been passed down to us by our ancestors that we've adapted to a modern time. You know, we have other modern methods that we can utilise to assess mauri, but we also have the methods of our ancestors. But mātauranga tells us of the abundance that was once here. And although we can still harvest tuna, the mātauranga of our ancestors say that there were many more species that were harvested around here that, from being here, you know, aren't as abundant. As kaitiaki, we still have much more to achieve in places like this in regards to restoration. And working in partnership, collaboratively, using modern methods, but also using what we have to offer as well. Our mātauranga is essentially of benefit to both parties in that we can work together to achieve the same aspirations, the same outcomes. We all want the same thing, that is the restoration of the environment. Through the likes of tau naha naha whenua, the protocol of naming places essentially embeds our whakapapa into the landscape and thus connects it to us. The way our ancestors saw things and the way that we see things is through a much wider lens, from the mountains to the sea and everything in between, kiuta ki tai. When we're talking about pepeha and who we are, it's ko wai, who are you? From which waters do you descend? When we talk about our ancestral mountains, it's our mountains that collect te ua, the rain. It travels down the mountains and into Ngā awa iti, into the streams, and then from there into Ngā awa. And from the awa, they travel across the land before making it out to the moana. That's the lens that we look at wai. That's how we see the water, that's how we see the environment. We see all of these things as interconnected because they are. It was the environment that afforded us the voice to speak, so we must use our voice to speak for the environment.